Even when you don't see change around you, heaven is already working behind the scenes. God's promise is not a theory. It is a living reality waiting to manifest in your life. The promise of elevation is not something you have to chase. It is something that has already been spoken over you. From the moment you believed, the process began. You may not see the evidence yet, but that doesn't mean God isn't moving. Faith doesn't need to see, faith knows. In the invisible realm, the hand of God is arranging situations, aligning people, and opening doors that no man can shut. Every delay, every disappointment, every closed door is part of the divine setup for your breakthrough. What looks like a setback is simply the stage being prepared for your rise. When God is about to elevate you, He often allows you to walk through quiet seasons. Those moments when nothing seems to be happening are not wasted. They are seasons of spiritual construction. God is building strength in your spirit, endurance in your faith, and vision in your heart. You may feel like nothing is changing, but the truth is, something is growing inside you. Just like a seed beneath the soil, you are in a process that cannot be rushed. You are being rooted before being revealed. Before God raises you publicly, He shapes you privately. Sometimes we think elevation comes through sudden breakthroughs, but often it comes through divine process. The promise has already been released in heaven. Now your faith must sustain it on earth. God does not forget what He has spoken. His word never returns void. If He said He would bless you, if He said He would lift you, if He said wealth and favor are coming, then no force in hell or on earth can cancel that word. The economy cannot stop it. The opinions of others cannot delay it. And your past cannot disqualify you. The blessing is not dependent on your background. It is dependent on God's power and your belief in it. Every moment you trust Him, the invisible moves closer to the visible. The angels are working. The heavens are aligning. You may feel stuck, but your spirit is advancing. You may not hear the sound of rain, but the clouds are already forming. The same God who lifted Joseph from prison to palace, who took David from the field to the throne, and who raised Esther from obscurity to royalty, is working the same way for you. Elevation is not an event, it's a journey of faith, so don't lose heart when you can't see progress. Heaven's timeline is not man's timeline. What God started in your life, He will finish with glory. Your promotion has already been spoken. Your wealth is already written. Heaven has declared it. Now walk in expectation, because what was promised is already in motion. Faith is the bridge between where you are and where you are going. Without faith, you stand still, but with faith, you move into the unseen promises of God. Faith is not just belief in your mind, it is trust in your spirit. It is the quiet confidence that even if everything around you looks impossible, God is still able to perform what He promised. When you walk by faith, you stop depending on your circumstances and start depending on His word. You no longer measure your future by what you see, but by what He has said. Faith is the invisible bridge that carries you from your current situation into your divine destination. You may not see the other side yet, but you know it exists because God said it does. Every act of faith begins with a step. When Abraham was called, he didn't know where he was going, but he trusted the one who called him. When Peter stepped out of the boat, the waves were high, but his eyes were fixed on Jesus. Faith is not waiting for the storm to calm. It's walking through it with peace in your heart. The enemy will always try to fill your mind with doubt because he knows that doubt disconnects you from destiny. But faith connects you to the supernatural power of God. When you speak faith, you open the door for miracles. When you act in faith, you give God permission to move on your behalf. Faith is not built in comfort, it is forged in challenge. Every trial is an opportunity for your faith to grow stronger. Every delay tests the depth of your trust. When you choose faith in the middle of uncertainty, you are proving to heaven that you believe in God more than in what you see. You are declaring that your story is not finished and that your future is already secured. Faith does not ignore reality, it just refuses to be limited by it. It sees beyond what eyes can see and hears beyond what ears can hear. When you speak words of faith, heaven responds. Words are not empty, they carry creative power. What you say determines what you see. That is why you must speak life even when life feels heavy. Speak increase when you feel lack. Speak healing when you feel pain. The bridge of faith is built one word, one prayer, and one act of trust at a time. The more you speak faith, the stronger your bridge becomes. Faith transforms waiting into walking, believing into receiving. It is the divine force that turns impossibility into testimony. You may not understand how God will do it, but faith doesn't ask for explanation. It simply believes. It says, God, I don't see the way, but I trust you to make one. And that trust is what moves you from your present struggle into your promised future, from hoping to having, from believing to becoming. When God allows you to walk through a wilderness season, it is never to harm you, but to prepare you. The wilderness is not a punishment. It is a classroom of transformation. It is in the dry places where God shapes the strength of your spirit and refines the purity of your faith. Every moment of lack, every closed door, every unanswered prayer is molding your heart for the blessing that is coming. Before God elevates a person, He develops their character to sustain the elevation. If the foundation is not strong, the blessing will collapse under its own weight. That is why God uses the wilderness to build you before He blesses you. You may feel hidden, but you are not forgotten. You are in the hands of a wise potter who is shaping you for a divine purpose. In the wilderness, you learn dependence on God alone. When everything else fades, when human help is gone, you discover that God is your source. He becomes your provider, your guide, your strength, and your peace. It is in the wilderness that you stop trusting your own abilities and start trusting His supernatural power. The children of Israel learned this when God led them through the desert. There was no water, no food, and no comfort, yet every day He provided manna from heaven and water from a rock. What looked like a place of suffering was actually a place of training. God was teaching them that His word is enough, His presence is enough, and His timing is perfect. When you go through your own wilderness, it can feel lonely and confusing. None of what followed would have happened, and I wouldn't have grown either, and why progress seems so slow. But the silence of God is not His absence. He is watching how you respond when nothing seems to be working. Will you worship or will you worry? Will you give up or grow stronger? Those who choose faith in the wilderness are the ones God trusts with abundance later. He is not only preparing your blessing, He is preparing you for the blessing. The tests you face now are shaping the maturity you will need to handle greater responsibility. The wilderness seasons produce deep roots of humility, patience, and gratitude. Without them, we would forget the hand that blesses us. God knows that what is birthed too easily often fades too quickly. That is why He allows the process to take time. Every trial is adding value to your spirit. Every hardship is carving wisdom into your heart. When the time of elevation comes, you will not crumble under pressure because your foundation has been tested and strengthened. The wilderness is not your ending, it is your preparation ground. You are being trained, refined, and strengthened for a level of blessing that will bring glory to God and fulfillment to your destiny. Your words carry power far greater than you realize. Every time you speak, you are planting seeds that will shape your future. What you say in faith today will determine what you see tomorrow. If your mouth is filled with doubt, fear, and negativity, you are sowing defeat into your own destiny. But when your words align with God's promises, you invite heaven to move on your behalf. Life and death are in the power of the tongue, and those who understand this truth use their speech as a tool of creation. You must speak prosperity, not poverty, faith, not fear, victory, not failure. The atmosphere around you responds to your confession. Your words create the environment in which your spirit lives. When you speak words of lack, you close the door to abundance. But when you declare that God is your provider and that His blessings are chasing you down, you open the door for miracles. The enemy wants to silence your voice because he knows that a believer who speaks in faith is unstoppable. You cannot speak defeat and expect victory. You cannot constantly complain and expect breakthrough. Faith is not silent, it declares. It speaks life even in the middle of death. It says God is able when circumstances say it's impossible. It says I am blessed even when the bank account is empty. When you speak in alignment with God's truth, your words carry creative authority that calls things that are not as though they already are. Look at how God created the world. He spoke. He said, "Let there be light," and there was light. The same divine principle operates in your life. You are made in the image of God, and your words have that same creative force. You can shape your destiny through the language of faith. Every declaration you make is a seed, and every seed will bring a harvest. If you speak words of hope, strength, and blessing, your life will bear fruit in those same areas. If you speak limitation, fear, and doubt, your harvest will reflect that as well. The power of your future is hidden in the words you speak today. You must learn to speak as though the promise is already fulfilled. Say, wealth is coming, even before you see it. Say, I am healed. Even while you are still in pain, say, doors are opening, even when they appear shut. This is not pretending, this is prophesying your destiny. You are not waiting for the natural to change before you speak. You are using your words to command change in the natural. When your confession and your belief align, miracles begin to manifest. Every time you speak life, you push back the darkness. Every time you declare God's truth, you shift the atmosphere in your favor. Speak boldly, speak consistently, and speak with faith. The power to shape your future is already in your mouth. Use it to declare victory, abundance, and divine elevation over every area of your life. When God blesses you with wealth, it is never just for personal comfort or status. It is a divine trust. Every blessing carries a purpose, and that purpose is always bigger than you. God never gives prosperity for selfish accumulation, but for kingdom expansion. He raises you, provides for you, and multiplies you so that you can become a channel of His goodness on earth. The moment you understand that your wealth has an assignment, your entire perspective changes. You stop chasing money and start positioning yourself to be used by God as a vessel of provision and influence. True wealth is not measured by what you keep. It is measured by what you release for God's glory. God's pattern has always been to bless His people so they can bless others. When He blessed Abraham, He said, I will bless you, and you will be a blessing. That same principle applies today. The reason God is preparing to elevate you financially is because there are lives connected to your obedience. Someone's prayer for help will be answered through your abundance. Someone's breakthrough will come through your generosity. Wealth is a divine responsibility, not just an earthly privilege. When you use it for the right purpose, to uplift others, support God's work, and bring hope to the hurting, your blessing multiplies. Heaven increases what flows through willing hands. If you hold tightly to your resources, you limit what God can do through you. But when you give freely and cheerfully, you become a living extension of His provision. The world teaches that security comes from saving and protecting what you have, but God's kingdom teaches that true security comes from sowing and trusting. What you release in faith never leaves your life. It simply changes form and returns multiplied. The hands that give are the same hands God fills again and again. That is why some people never run out of blessing. They have learned that giving keeps the flow of heaven open. God is not against wealth. He is against greed. He delights in prospering His children, but He looks for hearts that will honor Him with the blessing. When you make God the center of your financial life, He takes pleasure in enlarging your territory. You become a reflection of His abundance, showing the world that His people are not meant to live in lack, but in overflow. The more He can trust you to steward the blessing wisely, the greater the increase He will bring. Your wealth becomes a testimony of His faithfulness, a sign to the world that God provides for those who seek first His kingdom. When your heart is pure and your purpose is right, prosperity becomes a tool of transformation. It enables you to feed the hungry, build what others only dream of, and bring light into dark places. God's desire is not just to give you wealth, but to make you a carrier of His generosity, a living example that divine abundance always has a divine purpose. There comes a moment in every believer's life when doubt must be silenced and faith must take full control. You cannot walk into the blessings of God while entertaining the whispers of uncertainty. Doubt is a thief that robs you of peace, vision, and progress. It disguises itself as logic, but its goal is to disconnect you from divine power. Faith, on the other hand, activates heaven's resources and pulls the unseen promises of God into visible reality. Every miracle begins where doubt ends. When you stop questioning and start believing, you open the door for God to move in ways that go beyond human understanding. The time for hesitation is over. It is time to trust that what God has spoken will surely come to pass. Many people miss their break through not because God said no, but because they doubted before the answer came. They allowed delay to destroy their confidence. But faith is not about seeing instant results. It is about holding on until heaven delivers what was promised. Faith says, even if it hasn't happened yet, I know it's on the way. When you live with that conviction, you walk with peace even in uncertainty. The evidence may not be visible, but the assurance in your heart becomes unshakable. God honors those who stand firm in faith, who refuse to let circumstances dictate their belief. When you make up your mind that doubt has no voice in your life, you become unstoppable. God is not limited by your situation. He is limited only by your belief. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead is available to those who believe without wavering. When you pray, don't pray hoping, pray knowing. When you declare, don't speak with fear, speak with conviction. Heaven responds to confidence, not confusion. Your faith is a signal to the spiritual realm that you are ready to receive. The moment you align your heart with God's promise, things begin to shift. The resources you need start to move, the opportunities begin to open, and divine connections start forming. Faith draws heaven closer, doubt pushes it away. You must train your spirit to see beyond what your eyes see. The situation may look impossible, but faith does not live by sight. Faith says, God has done it before, and He will do it again. Every testimony in your past is proof that He is faithful in your present. The same God who healed, delivered, and provided before has not changed. If He did it once, He can do it again. Don't let your current struggle make you forget His past faithfulness. Stand strong, speak His promises, and walk as though the miracle is already finished. God is about to lift you, favor you, and surround you with blessings beyond measure. The waiting is ending, the shifting has begun, and the elevation you've been believing for is already on its way.